Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This week in WordPress and SaaS. This is episode 883. I've got a great guest. I am not going to pronounce his second name because I do not want to embarrass me and you, beloved audience. We've got Maciek. I probably butchered that as well. But he is also, that's his fault because he put in the word magic in my mind. So he is the chief developer advocate at Kinsta. We're going to be talking about all things headless, quite appropriate for the month of October. Headless connected to WordPress, I might add. So, Maciek, would you like to give us a quick intro, a quick 30-second intro about yourself and about what you do at Kinsta?
Oh, of course. So my second name is Palmowski. It's just you, and you did a great job with the first name. So really kudos for you. I work at Kinsta. I work there as a DevRel in general, but for most of my career, I was a developer, and I still always tell that I am a developer working as a DevRel because still, I feel like a developer at heart, and probably this won't ever change. At Kinsta, I'm responsible for mostly making sure that all of our content, everything we release, is kind of developer friendly, like the documentation, like every landing page that is aimed to developers. So all the wording, everything that is for sure that it will be good for every developer. So they will feel that it's for them. And of course, the second part is everything related with other developers, like talking with them, thinking about some partnerships, and so on. And also representing my company at different podcasts, webinars, events, for example, like here.
Yeah, thanks for that. I've had a great relationship with Kinsta. They sponsored the show for over a couple of years. Brian Jackson, that used to work at Kinsta, is a friend of mine. I know Tom as well at Kinsta. They're a great team. So I know the Kinsta setup quite well. Got my great co-host, the patient and insightful Kurt. Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Jonathan. My name is Kurt Von Annen. I own a small agency called Mañana No Mas, focused largely on membership and learning websites. Also work directly with Lifter LMS, WP-Tonic, and host my own podcast, Mañana No Mas.
That's great. In this show, we're going to be talking all things headless around WordPress and headless around SaaS as well, but with a focus around WordPress. But you should find the conversation really interesting. I think it's an exciting concept. It's been around for a couple of years, but I think it's developed as well. We got a real expert on the show. We're just going to do a big deep dive. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Coming back, folks. Just want to point out we've got a couple great special deals from the major sponsors, plus a curated list of all the best WordPress plugins. So you don't have to crawl the internet, my great tribe, to find the best solution for a customer. You'll find them all on this list with additional special offers. To find all these goodies, all you have to do in your keyboard is go wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you find all the goodies for October there. What more could you ask for, my professional WordPress tribe? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get from this show. So I say that every episode, and they just love it. The more you insult this lot, the better off you are, Maciek, or whatever I'm going to say. Oh, just Magic. Let's go for Magic, actually. It's going to be easier for me. So Magic, can you give a quick outline about what if somebody was asking you what headless meant around WordPress and they weren't a hardcore developer, how would you explain the key concepts around headless and why they should care?
I mean, first of all, I would start with explaining the opposite of headless, so monolith. So this is what by default WordPress is. So our CMS is responsible for two things. First of all, we can add the data, manage it. So every time we go into our WP admin, when we create a post, we are managing data in some way. So this is the one thing that we are doing with WordPress. But on the other hand, WordPress is also responsible for showing all the data we just created on the outside. We are doing this thanks to themes and with a sprinkle of plugins. So our CMS is responsible for everything, from data management to showing the data on the outside. So this is monolith. And headless breaks it a bit. So we will still use, we can use something else than WordPress, but let's say we are still using WordPress. So we will still use WordPress to manage data. So this is great because every person on the team who was just working with the website through the admin panel won't feel any difference. What changes is the way how we display the data, because WordPress won't be responsible for this at all. We will have a separate application for this. It might be a JavaScript framework, like, I don't know, we can use Vue, we can use Astro, whatever we want. There are so many ways. But it doesn't have to be a JS framework. It can be like anything. If you want to build, for some reason, our website using Rust, okay, do it. Laravel, yeah, of course, go for it. It's up to the team who will be responsible for building the front end. What will they choose? So, but to communicate, there is a need for an API. And WordPress either has its API built inside the REST API, or we can install a GraphQL one. I remember there are two plugins, one by WP Engine and one by, and I now forgot his name, sorry for this, but in general, the WP Engine one is the most popular. So yeah, and that's what it happens. Of course, on the first thought might be, this is almost the same, but you are adding this extra step of connecting those things. I mean, it was working in monolith. And that is true. But headless starts making more and more sense when we start connect many data sources into one place. So in one place, we have a blog from some different source. We, for example, have an e-commerce system. Because let's say we have a blog on WordPress, an e-commerce system on Shopify. We have some data stored in Notion that we want to display. So everything gets into the same place to our front end. Everything is connected through APIs, and it works.
So is it is it a way of doing a sophisticated, what I would call a mesh up? Meshing up. Yeah.
Exactly. Because this is also the thing. I always think about the kind of you should start thinking about going headless when you started to think which part of the data that you have to get from somewhere is the most important. And when you start to feel that there are many sources that has the same priority, it stopped having, you could start adding those things to your WordPress site, but you will think that, the WordPress shouldn't be the most important part if everything has the same priority. It's better to have this front end that is separate and all the data.
You're going where I thought you would go, because I'm getting the impression what you're trying to say there because I'm not an active developer anymore. So thank God I wasn't doing a service to WordPress by being one. But I was better than I probably thought I was. But well, I get the impression, because there's always a level with WordPress where you're doing something with plugins, and then the customer wants something the plugin can't do. So then you either adapt, you do a custom add-on, or you do a full custom plugin, and then there's something else they want and you add in it. But I think there's always a certain level where you get, if you've done pre-discovery and you know what they're looking for, rather than just we've all done it by the back seat mythology. But if we know, I think there's a stage where you're better off, instead of trying to solve everything with custom plugins, you'd be some ways better off going headless. Am I on the right track there, or am I missing it?
I think so. I mean, I always think about this perfect headless setup as a bit of a spider's web with all those connections. You have this one central site and all those APIs connected to different third-party tools or your own APIs. So yeah, it's all about the central point that gathers all the things from the outside. At some point, you just stopped adapting your WordPress to do things for which it wasn't created, and you just start using different tools for the job. Like I said, let's say Shopify. I know that WooCommerce is also great, but for example, Shopify for e-commerce, blog, WordPress, some raw data, Notion, and there are so many other solutions all over the web that have an API. And if they have an API, why not use it? Why not connect it with your website? You don't have to adapt your WordPress to do something. Just connect it directly, because why not?
Well, over to you, Kurt.
This is one of these episodes, Jonathan, where I'm just going to feel like an idiot the whole way.
It never stopped me. I've told Kurt multiple times not to be concerned, because it hasn't stopped me, because I know bugger all about anything. So get on with it, Kurt. Get over it. Get over it.
Well, I was looking into headless, and I was like, for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what was the benefit, because I'm like, I kept thinking in a WordPress to WordPress framework. I kept thinking, why am I separating the back end from the front end just so the end user can see a website that's all put together? I already had a website that was put together. Why am I adding all this stuff? It doesn't make any sense. But then someone said something to me that it just unlocked it. And it was like, it's not that you're removing the head and there's no head. It's that now you can add multiple heads. And so now you can have one that goes to a WordPress front end. You can have one that goes maybe to your podcast. Maybe you put your podcast content into your data, and that goes right to your podcast. And then I started thinking, well, that sounds amazing. And then the paranoid person in me came out, and I thought, every time I have a customer that wants a custom this, a custom that, tweak this, tweak the other thing, and plug all this crud into my WordPress environment, it gets unstable. So at what point does this headless thing get unstable, or is the glory of it that it's more stable?
And let's start with the favorite word of every developer. It depends, right? It depends. Yeah. Because I can tell you that I have this presentation that I am doing from time to time about headless WordPress, and of course it ends with, so should you use WordPress? Yeah, it depends. But this is kind of the thing that I think that, first of all, headless will be as stable as all of its services, right? So if we will try to connect one of the services that isn't that stable, yeah, we will have a problem. But on the other hand, like right now, we are going a step further, because this is this term that, I mean, this is kind of why Netlify bought Gatsby. Not for Gatsby because it wasn't the reason, but mostly because they had this platform called Valhalla, and it's called the composable web. And this composable web is like this another layer that kind of integrates all the data from all the sources. So it makes it more stable, because your front end will start connect with just this abstract layer that will get all the data from the outside. So this should provide a much better stability, because this layer will take care of some problems, will probably cache some of the results to make sure that everything seems stable. But yeah, I mean, on the other hand, I wouldn't never say that, yeah, go headless, it will change your life. No, that's not true. It's just a tool. And I think that this is one of the biggest problem with headless right now, not only in WordPress, but everywhere. Because there are some companies that kind of try to enforce to use headless, because they are just trying to make money on it, and that's okay. And we can very often hear, yeah, go headless, like your life will be better, your website will be faster, you will get more clients, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, we are just waiting for the part that you will get all those unicorns in your background and rainbows. And that's not entirely true, because headless is just an architecture. It's not good or bad. It will depend on our business. I can imagine many examples where going headless will just won't work, because there is a trade-off. There is always a trade-off, because yeah, we will gain some flexibility, but on the other hand, we have to connect everything that we have. And this is what you mentioned about the stability. Also, yeah, it's just different. And I mean, if you are used to and you are happy with how your monolith website works, that's perfectly fine. I mean, it works, it earns money. Why not? Leave it as it is. I mean, the fact that so many developers are writing that, yeah, headless is amazing, doesn't mean that it will work for you. It's just an architecture. It's not a silver bullet or anything like this. And this is kind of the thing that I'm very often trying to tell everyone, that headless can be cool, but it doesn't have to. It depends on so many things. I mean, even lately, if I remember, it was, I think, Amazon. Because Amazon, who we know them for the AWS, and the fact that they are using microservices for almost everything. Lately, they decided to combine some of their processes into a more monolith approach, because it's cheaper, it's stable, it's better. And yeah, so it's not like that headless will solve all the problems. You have to always think about it, evaluate. So,
Nice.
And like always, it depends. It depends.
Nice. Thanks, Maciek. Over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, but on the other hand, are there any particular scenarios, any particular industries, any particular developer projects that have come on your radar that were perfect fit for headless WordPress that come to mind that you can I'm struggling for the right word, showcase in this section of our interview?
Mm-hmm.
Has anything come to mind that was a perfect fit that's been on your radar recently?
I mean, I see that for some reason, and I kind of understand why it's happening, many online magazines, so let's call it kind of press related, very often go headless. I mean, let's look at TechCrunch, because TechCrunch is headless. If I look at the Polish market, the biggest blogs that we have, the biggest technical blogs, are built on headless WordPress. And the reason is very simple, because still, when we think about the CMS from a developer point of view, we think about all those shiny, cool things that there are in a CMS about the technology and so on. But most people working on such a website don't care about it. They have to have an environment to create articles, to create new content. So for them, having the stability, the same flow that they always have on every day, it's crucial. So thanks to this, I'm sure that all the authors at TechCrunch, or at those Polish websites, for them, they got used to WordPress. They are using it for many, many years. And on the other hand, the team that is responsible for the development of the website, of adding new features, they can add them without worrying that it will affect the authors too much, because they kind of live in separate worlds, and that's cool. And I think that giving the stability, and this is, like I said, this is kind of a reason why I see why Headless is very often used in those magazines or those bigger blogs, because let's call them blogs, but they're kind of become very often small web portals. But it still gives the same experience for the authors. And this is the most important thing. I mean, I couldn't imagine being an author at some of those websites and relearning the flows every, 2 or 3 years, because the developers said, hey, we found something new and exciting. Let's implement. It would be a nightmare.
I'm going to ask you a question that's not on the list, because I want to keep the conversation going until we go for a break. Is where does Gutenberg fit into this? And using React, is it does it have any overlap with because I know that the page builder, the kind of conflict between Gutenberg and, like, let's take a really popular page builder in the developer world, Bricks. Bricks has been getting more traction recently. And on my understanding, it's built on Vue rather than React. Obviously, Gutenberg's built on React, which was a controversial decision at the time. I've always preferred Vue myself. I think it's a much easier from my standard of developer. It's much easier to use than try and get my head around React, which its concept, it's a totally out of a normal CSS, PHP hacker, medium level developer. React is awful to get your mind around. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree. But is there any kind of overlap around Headless, around which page builder editor that you're utilizing?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't, because we very often have to remember that, and this also kind of depends on the way how we want to use Headless. Because I would say that there are two main scenarios when we are just decoupling the backend from the front end, but it's all about the one website. And there is another scenario when we have one WordPress that powers multiple pages, right? So, for example, it powers let's say we have a company that does a lot of things. So it powers our homepage, it powers of our landing pages and our mobile app that is also something separate. And every time when we go and we edit for example, in our WP admin, the About Us website, because we just earned some award, we change it, we publish it, and after a few minutes, all of those websites that are connected with it have their content change. And this is kind of another approach of it. I'm telling about those two ways because this depends. Because if we are using this way, we have to remember that our CMS is just for data. It's not for kind of building the website, building how they look. It's more just about getting the data, and the data is then displayed by the front end in some way. So in such case, the page builders wouldn't have that much sense. Gutenberg, on the other hand, why not? Because it kind of consists of blocks. So then we can convert those blocks into components, into whatever we want. We can do something about it. But with the more just decoupling way, I can imagine that we could use this page builder a bit more, but still I would probably go to use the CMS mostly just for data, and the front end would be responsible for the way how we present it, how we kind of interpret what was created in the content. But
Yeah.
like I said, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work with Gutenberg. It will. We just have to add a small little thing, because normally in the API we just got this big blob called the content, and we have to change it to be an array of arguments that we can just pass to our front end and do the whole magic there.
I see where you're coming from, but I've also seen, this is a similar argument, what functionality should be in a plugin and shouldn't be in a theme. There's, I'm not having a go at them. The one that comes to mind, that kind of great people, and I understand why it's happened, is that the one that's on regularly on our radar is Buddy Boss, where they've done a mashup where they mixed functionality in the theme and also in the plugin they provide, but they're not the only one. It's one of my main criticisms of the leadership in WordPress. They never really built out a solid framework and guidance about what should be in a plugin and what shouldn't be in the front end. But on the other hand, I suppose that's what you get with open source project, don't you? That's one of the there's great benefits, but there's nothing in life has total benefits without any minuses. You just have to make a judgment call, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. That's true.
One of the things that you guys were talking about that really came to light for me was in the use case with the magazines and the writers. And then Jonathan asked about Gutenberg. Gutenberg is an absolute pleasure to write in with the full screen editor as a writer. Whereas like Elementor and some of the other page builders, you're always stuck in that little box off to the left, So from that perspective, I could really see where that really would be a useful tool. So the writers and the content creators, people that publish, the words, they get that wonderful working space, but then all the design and stuff is handled off channel.
Yes, I mean, because this is kind of the thing that it's not even about headless. It's kind of about the concept of the CMS per se. And this is kind of my problem with the full site editing and with the fact that when we are creating content, we are kind of also designing many things inside of it. I have a huge problem with this because I'm from. Maybe I'm a bit from the past when the separation of concerns was so much important. And I always see that it's better to have data as data. That's it. Yeah. We can have some arguments to this. So let's say there is a box that has some role. So for example, it's a button, it's a warning box or whatever. But let's not style it at all. Let's style it on the front end, knowing that it's let's say this warning box or something. And this is my big problem with one way how Gutenberg works, because it has two ways. One is this dynamic, when we just kind of have the separation of data, and when the data is passed to the front end. And this is kind of very similar to the way how Headless works, right? Because we have data, we pass it, and the front end kind of builds it. And with the way when we style everything in it and we save the whole HTML, and I had this discussion with one of the agency owners in Poland about because I always work with those bigger clients, so we did redesigns, but we have to leave the content as it was. So it had to be universal. It had to. Every time when I created a website, I was already thinking about how the update process to another version will look like. And I asked him, hey, but with Gutenberg and the data saved inside as HTML, how do you think about the update process? Oh, I don't. We just will build another one and we just move the content separately, because when you redesign the website, you change the content. And it's like, okay, we were dealing with different types of websites. And yeah.
All right. Should we move to break?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thanks for that, Kurt. We're going to go for our mid-break. It's been a great conversation. It's always a balance in these conversations when you've got a true expert like Maciek, which I'm butchering his name now. It's all your fault. I've got Magic in my mind there. I'll put it down
Use
to
Magic.
I
it's
use Magic.
nice.
I use
It's
Magic.
magical.
It's the guest's fault. He's put something, and you know, if you're a regular listener to this show, that I was doing quite well for me until you put Magic into my mind, because I can butcher every guest's name. But we're going to go for our break, folks. We will be back with this great conversation. We'll be back in a few moments. Coming back, folks. I just want to say, if you're a developer and you're looking for a great community, why don't you look at joining the WP-Tonic Facebook group? We have a mixture of WordPress developers and people building great membership websites. So if you're looking for maybe some new customers or conversations, why don't you join us there? You'll find the link in the show notes. I'd love you to join the group and be part of the conversations. So let's go on to the next thing. So you got this new row of with Kinsta. How long? I don't know how long you've been in this row with Kinsta.
Exactly a year.
Wow,
I can tell you that.
Right.
Like this week, I had my first yearly review.
Oh,
and I'm still working at Kinsta.
it was going all so well until you decided to go on this podcast. It was all going, and then you made that fatal error of coming on this godforsaken show. So there we go. But we all make mistakes, don't we? As long as we learn from them. But what are some of the main things that you've learned in this year? You know, in any new position, it's a slight gamble going out of your comfort zone. You know, you're a very experienced developer. This is obviously you made a judgment call that you wanted to test yourself a bit and move out of your comfort row. What are some of the main things that you've learned during being this new row for you?
I mean, it wasn't such a jumping out of my comfort zone, because it already happened at my previous job when I worked at Body. When this was the first time when I became a DevRel. I mean, I remember that my official title there was WordPress advocate, because we were trying to help WordPress developers to learn more about CI/CD. And later we learned that, it's also worth maybe try it somewhere outside of WordPress. And these were the first steps when I started kind of thinking also a bit outside of the WordPress itself. This is also a thing that led for me to interest in Headless and so on and so on. But at some point I learned that Kinsta was, because it was more than a year ago, it was before the moment when they were launching the Kinsta application and database hosting, which is a very self-explanatory title for hosting for applications and for databases. And this meant that Kinsta decided to also see how it is outside of WordPress. I mean, we are still in WordPress, we are still doing the best. We are still adding features there, but we're also trying to grow a bit further from this. And I thought that, this is the perfect place for me to go, because I'm at the same position. I still want to have, I still want to be the part of WordPress community. I still want to have a chance to work with this community, go to WordCamps and so on, because I mean, going to WordCamp Europe is like my traditional way of spending a week of holidays, because I'm going to some city in Europe next year, Torino, and with my wife, with my kid, and it's like a whole week of first meeting the people, the WordPress people, then kind of seeing the city, learning.
Well, they
something
do.
new.
They do choose fabulous locations, don't they? For their.
Oh, that's true.
Bit,
That's
I'm
true.
not having a go at WordPress USA, but the places they. But I suppose I've been unfair. They've just got a lot more cool places to choose to
But
host their.
I'm so happy with the upcoming WordCamp Torino. I never been there, so yeah, why not?
I just got a quick follow-through question before I throw it over to Kurt. Is that I sense outside the WordPress bubble, the world, the developer world outside the WordPress bubble, as I call it, that WordPress is not seen as a very cool developer environment, it's got. I think some of that's true and some of that's very unfair. Is there one or two things in your mind that the WordPress community could do that would make WordPress more attractive to developers?
I think this is something very difficult, and this is also kind of connected with the leadership, and it's also one of the biggest problems is how popular WordPress is. I mean, it's very difficult to make very important, but also kind of backward compatibility breaking change if you have this more or less, let's say, 50% of the market, right? We are steering a very, very huge CMS with community, and every small step we'll make can be disastrous in its consequences. So in theory, we should play it safe. On the other hand, we from time to time see that some decisions are made just like that.
It's a strange concoction, isn't it?
Yes, and this is this is sometimes weird that in most cases I think that we are playing it like paranoidly safe, and sometimes we have those ideas that let's do something, and it's kind of
quite
weird.
Appropriate for October, witch's brew, we would say in the UK. I don't know if you know the saying. It's a real witch's brew.
Oh, I didn't know this. But I think I get what it means. Yeah, and this is kind of a problem here, and this is also a problem for developers. I mean, we know many developers that decide that WordPress is still using the kind of, let's call it,
well, you don't mind me. I'm interrupting a little bit, but do you think it's linked to the obviously drive to JavaScript libraries, to things like React and other libraries, and obviously the tradition in WordPress was PHP. Was it really just a consequence? It's not all WordPress's fault. It was just a consequence of that move to JavaScript libraries to front-end developers outside of WordPress.
I think it's a bit more complicated, because I see kind of a problem here, and this was also very often said by quite a few developers. Why does it happen that, for example, when we talk about JavaScript development, we can use more modern tooling? Because it's JavaScript, let's use those modern tools, modern standards, and so on. And when it comes to the PHP development, let's go with the legacy. Because it's safe and the people are using it, people are used to it. And this kind of caused this unnatural thing. Because I know that some PHP developers were mad at it. How it happens that some part of WordPress gets all the new shiny tools, and the thing that is kind of the foundation of WordPress still has to use the same stack we are using for quite a while. And I mean, we still see the problem with when it comes to the PHP releases and the PHP compatibility of WordPress. It's still a problem. Juliet very often says about it, writes about it, alarms everyone about it. She even had a plan at some point how to connect the PHP end of lives together with WordPress releases, which wasn't ever done, and everyone thought it will, but it didn't work for some reason. So yeah, we have I think we have a lot of problems, and I think it's everything. It's kind of on top of the fact that we are so big. So really, every decision. I mean, I can understand the leadership. I mean, let's be honest. I understand Matt that he has to be extra careful because right now our main thing is we have the, let's say, 50% of the market, and this is huge. No one else has it. But if we want to maintain it, he's trying to play it safe. I mean, we can look at Drupal. Drupal at some point decided to that's not true because Drupal.
Did you have to do that? This conversation was going so well.
Drupal is very interesting.
You've made me all hot and bothered there.
Really, no, but really, Drupal is very interesting because they decided at some point that it doesn't have sense to develop everything on their own. And they decided to start moving on to use the Symfony framework. So let the guys from Symfony handle a lot of things like database connections and everything. The problem was that when they introduced it, it created some like totally breaking changes. And they were okay with it. They said, in the long run, it has sense. And they were right. But then they made a second mistake. They decided, yeah, we should go do one step forward. And the next, I think it was next or two versions further release of Drupal that again broke the backward compatibility completely. So if they did it once, probably they would be in a much better position right now. But they did it twice, and they are still in the process of rebuilding. But now they are standing on a very solid foundation of Symfony. Symfony that is developed by many developers, that it's funded, and they can only take care of the CMS rather than many things, like I said, database connections and so on and so on. And with WordPress, we have a problem because with most things, we are handling them on our own. And again, having this 50% of the market,
it's not all bad. You have a company behind WordPress that's got $1 billion of VC funding. Almost $900 million of VC funding. There's not many open source projects that have a company behind it that's, like I say, almost got $1 billion of funding, is there?
That is true. Yeah, it's. I mean, this is really interesting when we think about open source, right? On one thing, one of the most important things about we see in open source that it's free, both in the way of we can share the things and how very often we can use it for free. But it's really interesting how much money does open source make or enables many companies to make, right? This is
well, I just see it as a kind of for all the criticism you can make at Matt is that his decision, I don't know if he regrets it. There probably is some days that he deeply regrets the decision, but I think in his heart he doesn't regret it, but also he benefited from all the initial work and traction that open source gave him. So you make your deal with the devil and then you've got to stick with it, haven't you? Or you are wise to. Over to you, Kurt.
I think I'm going to break it down and come to an easier path. Maciek, just what kind of tools do you use? What kind of tools and services do you run your business with daily, and what kind of tools could you recommend to our audience?
And to be honest, this is kind of the moment when, because I remember that at some point, going back to my developer career, I remember that I said at some point, if there will be a day during which I will say that Calendly and Slack are my favorite tools, please kill me. And guess what? Here we are. Yeah, so being a developer kind of switched the way of which tools I am using, because I am less of a developer right now. So, and it's very important for me to kind of plan my meetings. So yeah, Calendly. I also really enjoy Slack because this is kind of the way how we communicate. They really added some. I mean, I still don't have the new way.
I'm sorry.
I
love it and I hate it. What a dog's breath of an interface.
But they added some cool features along the way. For example, I really love the mark for later feature. It's so useful, especially at our company, because like the company itself works 24 hours a day because we have people all around the world. So I wake up and I see I have so many things on Slack that happen when I wasn't working. So the first thing I just go just to save for later, just to make sure that I won't forget about this. But yeah, still, because at heart I am a developer and I still have to build many things like those.
The thing that you said about Calendly, I'm really excited that the Fluent team, they're going to produce their WordPress version, and I'm really excited when that comes out, because I think it's something. There are some calendar solutions in the WordPress, some great ones. But I'm just looking forward to what Fluent, because I think there's been something really missing in the WordPress space, and I've got great confidence in the Fluent team based on what they've produced so far. So I'm really looking forward to that. They can send me the check in the post later on, actually. Sorry, back. You want to ask the next question, Kurt, because I butted in. So.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. I was having my own flashbacks to trying to get used to Slack, and I'm still not a Slack expert, even though I've got 9 people that demand I use it.
I mean, I also before working at Kinsta, most Slacks that I was at were quite small, and here we have like 400 people from different departments, like a load of channels, a lot of those temporary channels when we have some.
You don't want me asking. You might actually. I mean, I'm butting in again. I apologise, but you probably don't know this. Is Kinsta totally bootstrapped, or did it take investment?
I know it was bootstrapped, but I don't want to make a mistake here.
No, so especially when your year's assessment is coming up. You don't want to do that. No, I don't want the responsibility of getting
it was a week ago. Don't worry. It's but still, to be honest, I kind of not sure. I think it. And I don't want to say something wrong.
If it is, they've done an amazing job, the Kinsta team. If it has all been bootstrapped, it truly is impressive.
For sure, for many years it was bootstrapped. So, and yes, they did an amazing job. I mean, when I learned that there is a chance to work at Kinsta, it was like, yeah, great. I mean, I use the product. It's great. I can go everywhere and be honest about it. Hey, I work at Kinsta. It's amazing. Because
you could just say it without having to take a shower afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a chance at some point to work.
You can't say that with some WordPress focused companies. You know, you might have to take their money, but you'd have to take a lot of showers as well.
Yeah, maybe it was. No, I wouldn't say that it was, but. If someone would ask me, hey, would you recommend it?
No, I don't ever go at the people. I'm not going to mention them, but I know some great people that work for some companies, and they say in private, you know, we've got to pay our mortgage, so we work for them, but we have to take a lot of showers.
But And to be honest, this is really the cool thing about my job right now. I'm really proud of the team, of the product, of everything. And yeah, if you would
Well,
ask
they
me,
always. I love them to decide to come back, but I don't think they're going to. But I always got on with the Kinsta thing, so I'm not just saying this for the money because. But there we go. You asked the last question, Kurt.
Well, this is Jonathan's favorite question, so I'm pleased that he's sharing it with me. If you are you familiar with the show Doctor Who?
Of course, I love it.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so you already know how much Jonathan loves the show, and if you had your own TARDIS and you could go back to the beginning of your career, what essential advice would you give yourself?
I think that one of the things that I made a mistake for quite a while was the fact that I did not invest enough in my personal brand, really, because during our careers, we will change our jobs, we will change our roles, we will change a lot of things. But the things that stays is our name. And if you would see my LinkedIn account, you would see that I switch jobs quite often. I do, because I like the challenge. I like learn something new, because also going from one company to another enables you to learn things. And I very often had this problem that I always thought, yeah, I will be representing this company, that company, and people will know me as this guy from company X or from company Y. But that's not true. I don't want to be that guy from some company. I want to be, this is Maciek Palmowski. He is known because he is Maciek Palmowski. And this is something that I learned, I think, when I kind of started to change my career from being a developer to going into DevRel. So when I worked at Body. And yeah, this was the moment when I kind of started investing more in myself. I mean, of course, it's not that I am more important than that my role that I am doing right now at Kinsta. No, it's not. But still, I want to be remembered for being me, not for being an employee at some role somewhere. I mean, I want to be known as Maciek Palmowski, who is a great DevRel at Kinsta. And that's great. But like I said, our name will stay with us. And also, I think it also goes, it also benefits both parties, because being known for yourself attracts people. And thanks to this, I can also work better, especially that my role is talking with developers. And if developers will know me, it will be also easier for me to say at some point, hey, here at Kinsta, we have something new. We launched something amazing. And you should give it a try. And because they will know me, they will know that I'm an honest DevRel, that I'm an honest guy, and that they know me from social media, from conferences, it doesn't matter. Some of them will give it a try, and that's important. The fact that so yeah, this would be my advice, not only to me but to everyone. Yeah, invest in your personal brand. It's really important.
Yeah, that is a super solid answer. Just to bounce off of that, I used to be in the automotive industry, and it's not uncommon at all for customers to follow a person from dealer to dealer to dealer, right? Because people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, And so that's super sound advice, man. I really like that. Thanks, Maciek.
Yeah, I've got to say that.
Oh, and I can say that with developers, it's the same.
I've got to say
I had so many clients that follow me from
I've got to say, for this year, that was one of the most insightful answers that we've had from a guest. So I'll give you 5 out of 5 for that. We have finished. You really want to listen to that. If you're listening, my beloved tribe, that was a fantastic insight. And thank you so much, Maciek, for that insight. It was really powerful, and I totally agree with you. You've been a fabulous guest. You must come back next year and have another discussion with us. I've really enjoyed it. I think we had the right blend of tech with not too techy, because it can go really deep, these conversations, but I think it's been fabulous. Like I say, folks, please join us on the WP-Tonic Facebook group. We've got a great mixture of developers and people trying to build a great business, membership business on WordPress. We will be back next week with another fabulous guest, because I'm amazed at the quality of people like Maciek that have agreed to come on the show this month and next month. We'll see you soon. Bye.